Bayou Time Sports is brought to you by Terrible General Health System's Community Sports Institute in conjunction with Barker Honda.
And welcome everybody, and this is Bayou Time Sports, a very special segment as many are going into the Bayou Region Hall of Fame tonight here in Terrebonne Parish. And what a group it is. Fantastic group, and all of them know each other pretty well. That's the beauty of it all. A lot of them played against each other, and a lot of the coaches coached against the ones who played against each other. So it's going to be a great night here at the Columns, and we look forward to it right here on a very special edition of Bayou Time Sports.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Terrebonne General Community Sports Institute's 6th Annual Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. We'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Gulf Coast Orthopedic, for making this possible. And now, if you would all please stand for the invocation and the pledge. Doing the invocation is D.L. Mosley.
Oh, gracious Father, we come this evening, Father. Oh, Lord, Father, we come to give you thanks, Father. We thank you for this day. We thank you for all that you have allowed to transpire on this day, Father. We thank you for making this day possible, Father. Father, we ask that you bless this event, Father. Bless it that it be what you want it to be. Bless all those that will participate and have participated in it, Father. I ask that you bless all the inductees in this event, Father. And as we leave this event this evening, Father, we ask that you guide each and every one safely back to their destination. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing for the pledge. Mr. Percy Mosley.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now to tell you more about this outstanding program that we've been having for the last few years is the man who was instrumental in getting this started, Mr. Stan Gravois.
Welcome, everybody. Before I get started, basically my role is to go over 3 questions that Elmi, who really is instrumental in putting this thing together, that we've decided that we want you to know why this is all happening. So I'm going to go over those 3 questions with you. For those of you who come on a yearly basis, I'm sorry, you have to hear it again. For those of you, for it being your first time, I hope that it helps you to understand what this Hall of Fame is all about. First question, and I'm going to read. I have my little cliff notes with me. Why are we here? So we're here because of a simple conversation about 8 years ago between myself and an old friend, Craig Loop, related to the wealth of our athletic talent in the area that was not being recognized by our present and future generations. They just didn't know about some of our people in the area who had gone on to do so well. So I was new to Terrebonne General. I went back. I met with my friend Mike Fake, who was instrumental in helping me to get this all started. We did it. We went in, and we came up with this simple mission statement. The Community Sports Institute Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame exists in order to educate, remember, and ensure that our present and past Bayou Region generations never forget the possibilities of their own success by evoking examples of the past. We just don't want to forget. Second question that I was asked to answer: how does one get into the Hall of Fame? So on a yearly basis, from June 15th to October 31st, we accept nominations. Anybody can be nominated, but you have to be nominated from the public. If you go to brahoff.com, that's Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame.com, you can find a nomination form. Next, from November 1st to the 15th, nominations are made into official ballots. Then, from the 15th to December 31st, ballots are sent to 15 voting sports dignitaries in the Bayou region. And then, the first week of January, those inductees are notified that they are going to be inducted. The following week, we sort of tell it to the public. It starts with us doing this at the Sports on the Bayou program at HTV 10, and then we send out press releases everywhere. And finally, on the third Thursday of every June, we are here to induct our inductees. Final question I am here to answer to you is, what does one receive for being an inductee? First, tonight, our inductees receive an internal crystal flame, which is symbolic of endless remembrance of their accomplishments in the athletic world and in their communities. And you see these here at the tables. Next, number 2, they will forever be recognized on the Wall of Fame over at the Terrebonne General Community Sports Institute. It's wonderful to see the people looking at this wall and reading about all of the inductees on a yearly basis. And finally, number 3, their introductory videos, which will be shown a little bit later tonight, will be shared with you and with all of the public, especially the schools where you have the high school kids, so that they will never be forgotten. As a matter of fact, immediately after our ceremony tonight, well, maybe tomorrow morning. I might want to go home after tonight, but I am going to go release those to YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you type in any of our inductees tonight or our past inductees, you will see the introductory video, which you're going to see a little bit later tonight. On that note, I do have to thank some people. It's my job to produce these videos, and I had to ask all of you inductees and some of your family members and some of your friends to come in to the little studio that I have over at Terrebonne General. Thank you so much for giving of your time. I know that's not always easy, but you all came in, you did a wonderful job, and it was just so enlightening to me. I had a wonderful time doing that. So again, thank you very, very much for coming in and doing that. It's important that I acknowledge all of the other entities that I went out and got footage and things from so that I don't violate any copyright issues. So on the wall way to the left, you'll see thank yous to some of those people who were nice enough to give us some of that footage. I'd like to especially thank Martin Falls, who I reached out to. Martin's got a couple of close friends going in tonight. By the way, Harry, don't blame me for any of the footage you're going to see tonight. Sorry. But Martin was very good in giving me footage and let me use footage that he has had, not only related to those friends, but even the people that he respected in the athletic world that he's done one-on-ones with and things like that. So I used all of that in there too. So again, thank you for that. And thank you for being here tonight, as you always cover our event on a yearly basis. And finally, as time flows by and all good things must be passed on to our upcoming generations for safekeeping and continuing this mission, I am now pleased to call up to the podium the new director of the Community Sports Institute, Brett Chesson.
So pretty much, as most of you know, this Hall of Fame would not be what it is today without Stan's passion and dedication to preserving the history of athletics throughout the Bayou region. So thank you, Stan. Proceeds from tonight are going to benefit the student athletes of our community through Terrebonne General's Community Sports Institute and the Foundation for Terrebonne General. This includes, but is not limited to, providing certified athletic trainers to our 7 local high schools in Terrebonne Parish, but also providing free baseline concussion testing to athletes that participate in contact sports. There are some special guests that we have here tonight. Please stand for recognition. We have some of our members of our Board of Commissioners for Terrebonne General. We have our administrative team for Terrebonne General, and we also have the Board of Directors for the Foundation. Thank you for your continued support of the Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame. Also, I'd like to go ahead and thank all of the Hall of Fame committee members. They take time and effort to go ahead and review all the statistics and the backgrounds of all athletes that are nominated and coaches as well to this Hall of Fame. So we appreciate your time. Also, I'd like to go ahead and thank the planning committee. Without their countless hours of effort, this event wouldn't be as nice as it is, so we definitely appreciate all of your efforts. Serving us tonight is going to be our Team Terrebonne members. So all of these people are pretty much Terrebonne General employees. They're volunteering their time tonight to go ahead and help support our mission of the Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame. So pretty much supporting you. There we go. So serving you tonight, you could literally have somebody that could have been saving someone's life earlier today. So we definitely appreciate all of your efforts. And last but not least, we'd like to thank our sponsors. We definitely couldn't do it without you. Our goalie sponsors tonight are ISR Physical Therapy, Dalton LeBlanc State Farm, and Barker Honda. Our touchdown sponsors are Synergy Bank, Colburn's, and K&B Machine. And our Grand Slam sponsors are USI, Terrebonne General Health System, and last but not least, we have our presenting sponsor tonight, again, Gulf Coast Orthopedics. Everybody please give them a round of applause. And lastly, I'd like to invite Ms. Jamie Goday to go ahead and say a few words on behalf of Gulf Coast Orthopedics. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to welcome you to this event. We are so happy to be able to be the presenting sponsor and thank Terrebonne for the opportunity. And I want to congratulate all the inductees. I'm sure you've heard that so many times in your life. Congratulations, good job. But more than that, one of the things that Gulf Coast does as an outreach is we're real involved with the Community Sports Institute and caring for our student athletes. It's one of the best parts of my job, I think. So to the inductees, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for the sacrifices that you made throughout your careers to get to where you were able to reach those milestones, but not only that, for coming back and pouring back into the community. I don't know all of you. I hope to meet you all tonight, but I am personal friends with a few, and there's one, Coach Harding, who's actually coached my son and made a tremendous difference in his life just because you cared enough. And I think that can be said for each of the inductees here. What you've done to come back and give back to this community is priceless for our student athletes. Because you chose to be great beyond this region, you give them permission to be great beyond this region. They can see you, somebody that came from their hometown, doing great things athletically, and they believe they can too. So I think for me, for Gulf Coast Orthopedics, that's one of the best parts of tonight. Just the fact that you are inspiring athletes that you may never meet, just because you did what you were able to do and you did it really, really well. So I hope you enjoy this evening. And again, Gulf Coast Orthopedics is so happy to be able to be a presenting sponsor tonight. Thank you very much for coming.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
I hope everybody has enjoyed their delicious meal. Thanks to the good folks here at Cypress Collins and all the folks from Team Terrebonne for making sure you were all well fed. Thanks very much. Before we start with this year's honorees, we would like to recognize some dignitaries in the crowd. First of all, the Superintendent of Schools in Terrebonne Parish, Bubba Angeron. Bubba. My old buddy, the Mayor of the City of Thibodaux, Kevin Clément. And I would be remiss if we didn't introduce the CEO and President of Terrebonne General Health System, Ms. Phyllis Peoples. We have some of the previous inductees of the Hall of Fame here tonight that we would like to recognize. From the first class of 2017, Coach Gerald Albert. Also from the first class in 2017, Mr. Frank Lewis. From the Hall of Fame class of 2019, Mr. Johnny Meads. And also from the class of 2019, Coach Don Schwab. All right, it is now time for us to start with the inductees for this 2023 class. And first up is Lori DuPont.
We grew up off Menard Street and then Blake Court Street, which is downtown, right by St. Joseph Elementary. And then we moved to Bellmead Subdivision, which is right behind Peltier Park. So I actually lived in 3 different houses when I was growing up. Born, raised, and gonna die in the city of Thibodaux. We had a great neighborhood. Tetro Street and Blake Court Street had a bunch of kids at the same age. Every time it would be bad weather, we had football games. Of course, we always played slop, you know, that's what we did. We had a big playground because Blake Court was right off of Thibodaux College yard, and we had a huge yard to play sports, and that's what we did and every spare time we had. One of my best friends lived on Tetro Street, and of course, Joe Fake. And me and Joe Fake did everything together growing up in Thibodaux College days. We played all sports. Football, basketball was our 2 major sports. Track wasn't there yet for us in the younger ages. Baseball was. I wasn't that good in baseball, but I played. Played mostly because Joe Fake was really good in baseball, and we did everything together. The guy that was very instrumental in my life growing up when I was little was my old brother, Joan. He was my role model. He was athletic. He was very athletic, and I looked up to him. My heroes was a guy named Mike Duncan and Ski Roussel, 2 Thibodaux High pupils. Of course, Donald Schwab was a big hero for mine. And, the Rodrigues, all the Rodrigue family, the clan, I call them the clan, they all played college athletics and they were all good. But Ruffin Rodrigue was, senior, was a very good ball player, and he was one of my heroes growing up. I played football, basketball, and when it came to the spring, I didn't do too much with track at a young age. I did golf. I was very, I played golf very young. My uncle J.B. DuPont taught me how to play golf. So I won plenty golf tournaments in that area, and I loved to swim. I was a good swimmer. We didn't have the swim teams at that time, but we swam a lot. I just loved throwing the football. When we used to play football and games and everything, I mostly played quarterback when we were playing 2-hand touch, you know. And so when we got to the sport itself, by the time we got to the middle school area, we had a really good middle school team. And actually the culmination of that year was in my 8th and 9th grade year, we beat West, which was the big team at the time, and we beat them at the end of the year. And so when I went to the varsity level, I was always playing quarterback. The fondest memories was we had a great coaching staff. Coach Zush, who was going to be inducted, was my role model. I looked up to him. I believed in everything he told me. To us, he was God. The 1967 team, we probably was our best athletic team. And so we saw the highs and the lows. Us and Vanderbilt were playing the semifinals that year, and we were hoping that we would each win in the semis and meet in a championship, and that would have been something unbelievable. Eventually, Vanderbilt lost the night before, and we got beat the next day. From that night on, our junior class said we don't want to have this feeling again, and we committed ourselves 100% from the night we got beat against Kinder. At the time, I was being recruited by Tulane, It was me and another quarterback out of Terrebonne High School, and eventually they took the quarterback from Terrebonne High School. Then I took an official trip to Northeast Louisiana, and offered me a scholarship. Coach LeBlanc did, and the head man. It was really a quick decision, a decision I made completely on my own. And you know, they press you the last day you're there on a visit, and I verbally committed to them. My mom and daddy dropped me off up there, and they went on vacation. I think I beat them back home. I didn't stay long. I stayed 3 days. That's something I had to live with for the rest of my life. I didn't realize that you represent not just yourself and your family, but the whole community. And they had a lot of disappointed people, and I was kind of hurt and disappointed that I let them down. I sat out a year. My wife was working she wasn't my wife at the time. Jan was working at Nicholls State University, and Coach Russell Galliana had a club football that they had started at Nicholls State, and begged me to go out to play. The following year, I did play club football, and we had a really good season. We had some really good athletes. And then Nicholls State was starting their first football program, and they offered me a scholarship. So I made a kind of a 360, and I was lucky to play back at home. But my true passion was always wanting to be a coach. I wanted to be like Coach Zesh, and he was my role model all through my younger years, and to the day he's still my role model. The last scrimmage we had the week before we played Mississippi College, I had a bad injury. I got sacked at the quarterback by a great person locally in this area, Alan Danos. To the day, I still say that. I still brag about Alan. But they offered me a great opportunity to just switch my football scholarship to golf. And they agreed to it. And Coach Sanders was the golf coach and the head basketball coach. And so it was a win-win opportunity for both me and now Jan, my wife at the time. And it was a great opportunity to continue and have a scholarship for my education. After my third year in college, I had to make a decision what I wanted to do. I told my father that, so he asked me what I wanted to be. And I told him I wanted to be a high school football coach. And I'll never forget that. He was shaving like he does in the old days and smoking his little cigarette. And then he just said, "Okay, son, if that's what you want to be, that's fine, but you're going to be a poor person." And I said, "Yes, sir, but I'm going to be a happy poor person." And so that was my dream, and I never looked back. I graduated at Christmas, and Dr. Spike Bergeron got me a job at Donaldsonville Junior High, and I actually coached a boys basketball team right out the chute, and we went 19-0. So the opportunity came about where at the end of that beginning of 74 school year, I had the opportunity to go back and coach for Coach Zesh, my life dream. Coached for 2 years at E.D. White, 74 and 75. I left in 76, the end of the school year. Coach Zesh had left at Christmas time, so I didn't want to be there anyway without Coach Zesh. Taught 1 year at Terrebonne High School. Great year. We had a good season. We went 7-3. We got beat in the second round of the playoffs. And Kelly was a really good football coach to us, and I learned a lot. Coach Zesh ended up getting the head job at Thibodeau High, and first person he called was me to come back. That was a tough decision to make, but again, my lifelong dream was to continue to coach with Coach Zesh. So I came back to Thibodeau High. I stayed with Coach for 5 years. Coach stepped down, and I continued as the head coach and AD for 5 years at Thibodeau High. My last year at Thibodeau High, we went 3-7 or 2-8, and they decided to make a change. So I had plenty of opportunities to go other places, which was great. I was wanted. West St. John played now Jamboree all the time. They had the best looking athletes you ever want to see. They were just disorganized. That's the best way I'm gonna say it. They wasn't prepared for the Jamboree to play. They had everybody coming back. They got beat that year. The starting backfield, which I was gonna be the offensive coordinator. The starting backfield all ran 4.5 in the 40, bench press over 300 pounds. So that didn't hurt. They supported their school 100%. their whole, believe it or not, besides the adults working jobs, their number one priority was West St. John's athletics and football. I mean, the tradition started and it never ended all the years I was there.
And they welcomed us into their family like no other.
Had a great support team, had great administrators, had a great coaching staff that stayed together with me all my years there. That's amazing, you keep your whole staff.
He knew how to mold the players and the staff to make it a one, as Bebe would say, one heartbeat. Now, that was Lauren, and he was pretty sharp about the X's and O's.
That was a special night because when we played Riverside during the regular season, we got beat, but we had a couple of guys, the key guys that were hurt, our fullback and our middle linebacker, and two better athletes who didn't play that night, and they were both back. And so Riverside knew that we had a very good chance of beating them, and we did. Once I finished my drop, we had a new principal coming in. It was just right for me to retire. And I did it, I thought I did it the right way, and I still do. I never look back. For half a year, I worked at Duncan Sports. Lo and behold, my next door neighbor, their father-in-law was a guy named Donald Swab. And Swab used to always be at the house when I was cutting my grass. He said, "Hey, man, Coach, can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, Coach." I said, "What's going on?" He says, "You need to go over to Vanderbilt and apply for this job." And I said, "Coach, I'm not ready to get back into coaching. I'm happy with what I'm doing." And, "No, you need to do that." A week or two later, Coach Swab's back at the house again. I think he went there purposely to see if he'd see me in the yard. I'm working. He says, "You didn't go apply for the job yet?" I said, "No, sir." He says, "Got a week left. You need to go apply for the job." And so I had to go back to the school to follow up on my athletic sale. And lo and behold, the secretary over there convinced me to take the application. I did apply for the job, and so be it. I was the head coach at Vanderbilt. So it was a lot tougher situation. And then I became the AD too after half a year, which not enough hours in a day, let's put it to that. It's tough to be an AD at Vanderbilt Catholic or ED White because they play so many sports. Most fun kid I ever coached was Patrick Jackson. Patrick Jackson was a running back for us who played for Louisiana Tech. The best overall athlete, by far, talented athlete. That's hard to say because you got positions. Tyson Jackson was great. Elijah McGuire was special at Vanderbilt. You know, to be blessed to coach Eric Anderson and Ruffin Roderick Jr. was a lifelong dream too. I mean, I had the best fans and the best in the area. That was my family. They didn't miss a thing. Scott and Michelle and my wife, they didn't miss any games all the years. And that's a plus when you got a coach's wife that's a fan.
We rode bicycles together, and we were young. We were like 6th, 7th grade when we said we were going to be girlfriend and boyfriend. And then it got to where we both went to ED White. So we used to walk to school together in the morning.
Childhood sweethearts, Blake Court Street. She lived across the street from our family house, and riding our bicycles as usual. That's what we did back in them days. And
he's so kind-hearted.
I wasn't good at handling adversity when I was young. You know, when I lost, I took it seriously. I thought you had to double up to catch up. And when I was winning, I took it for granted. But handling adversity was probably, my only regret was the way I handled it. Now, the older I got, I think I got better at it.
You would want him for your father. You would want him for a mentor, which he is to a bunch of people. And people don't realize how highly intelligent Laurie DuPont is. He's a sharp cookie about books, but about how to treat kids, how to treat adults, how to motivate.
Presenting Laurie DuPont with his award tonight is Bernie Claymore, Terrebonne General Vice President of IT and Innovation. Laurie DuPont.
You know, we had the opportunity to either bring some of our family members up or just come up individually, and definitely the family was coming up. I guess I'm the guinea pig. I'm the first one up here. The rest of the inductees can know the mistakes I make, but it's a lot of thanks and congratulations. And you got to say it in 2 or 3 minutes. I'm gonna try to get through it as best as I can. I'd like to thank definitely Elmy and Stan, the first-class job they've done in setting this thing up with us and our family. Of course, I couldn't be here without God. God gave me the opportunity to have the career that I've had and the great family that I've had and supported me. Tough. When I was looking back at the inductees before us, before this year's class, and we've got a great class going in with Jesse Miles, Dalton, Harry McCullough, Greg Harding, and Coach Zush, and myself. So proud to be in this class. I know most of them, either by friendship in the past or in coaching. I coached Greg for 1 year at Terrebonne High School. He was a great athlete and a great person. He still is today. Congratulations to this class. Of course, Coach Zush, Pat, is my role model. He's my second dad to the day. Every time I've had any kind of problems in life, I call Coach Zush. And he was just a great supporter of me and my family. And I couldn't have had a better role model than him. And you ask that to everybody in your family or in life, who was your role model when you were growing up? Well, most of the time, it could be the teacher in the school or coach. And Pat Zush was mine, and he's going in with me tonight, and I couldn't be more proud. The past inductees before me, man, and they said it in the video best as I can. I was fortunate enough to coach Eric Anderson. He was definitely the most greatest. I call him the gentle giant. I call him the big Pollock. Everybody, he was the biggest man I've ever seen in high school, but he was the most gentle person. And he's inducted. I had the blessings to coach with Sandy Fusel. Work with Sandy and coach with Marsha Johnson. And these women are the who's who in their coaching careers. Scott Sanders, I had the opportunity to coach him at Thibodeau High in basketball. Scott didn't play football, but I also coached basketball at Thibodeau High. Competed against Tommy Hodson when I was a coach at Thibodeau High and him at Central Lafourche. He was the greatest quarterback I've ever seen in high school. He's inducted into our Hall of Fame. Pop Gun, nothing more I can say is he was a great friend. He was a mentor. For a while there, when he was at H.L. Bourgeois, I almost took the head coaching job over there to leave West St. John. Believe it or not, it was a great opportunity to get back at 5A, but it wasn't meant to be financially. Not that I didn't care to go. Coach Schwab, well, me and Coach Schwab go back. He was my hero growing up. And then we ended up competing against him when I was at Thibodeau High, and he was at H.L. Bourgeois. Jesse Miles, who was in the inductee class, was the greatest running back they had in high school at that time, went to LSU. And we never beat him. He's still running when I was at the Y. Very instrumental with me getting a job at Vanderbilt, too. Thank you, Coach. You know, you set goals, and I'm right at the end. You set goals with the kids. When you're in athletics, everybody has goals in athletics. And, of course, the kids that write goals down is, you know, we want to win every game. We want to do the district championship. We want to win a state championship. That's all good and fine. And so we were fortunate enough to achieve a lot of those goals. My goal every year that I set to myself was very simple. Get the maximum effort out of every kid on my team every day. Because every kid is individually different from the next kid. But if I can get the maximum effort out of that kid every day and be prepared to coach him, I'm doing my job. I never thought about awards or accolades. I knew that individual awards come with team awards, and we were very successful. And I had plenty of awards going my way because it was a team award. And this is the number one team I got right behind me, my family. Without family, you have nothing. My wife and my two kids, Scott and Michelle at the time, they were a dream family for a coach. A lot of long hours during the season, a lot of ups and downs, not only wins and losses, but also being a psychiatrist with the kids, having problems at the house, and the coaches in the audience know what I'm talking about. And it's a tough job, and we kind of handle it. And I like to see the word, I call the word success. We develop success. Coach Zush always told me, treat every kid like they were your own. And I did, whether he was the best athlete or the worst athlete. I'm blessed again to be here with you tonight because of my family. Michelle, my daughter, has two kids, Janie and Jace, and my son-in-law, Jason. Before I step down, I'm receiving an award that's parish-wide. My son-in-law just won a major national award with the IT, with the state of Louisiana legislation. And he's going to receive that award in Indianapolis in August. It was a great honor. Congratulations, Jason. I'm very proud to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I really thank y'all for supporting me and my family and my career. And it's great to see all the people here tonight. And I love to kind of mingle with you as much as I can, but it's going to be a long night as it is. So thank y'all very much for coming out. And to be remiss, the last thing I'm going to tell you, the most valuable player on my team every year was my wife, Jan, without a doubt.
Just your thoughts on what tonight means for you?
Oh, it's a very humbling night. First of all, it's the icing on the cake. Well, I guess it's because of the accolades and the career and the legacy that I left at West St. John, Thibodeau High. But never thought I'd be in Hall of Fames.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to be in this one. It's even more special than Louisiana Athletic Association because it's our area. You know?
Yeah. And isn't it neat that when you break it down, you got half from Lafourche, half from Terrebonne, and everybody's conscious of what everybody else has done, but you can't really always be together in a social setting, so it's fun to rub elbows.
Oh, absolutely, and to see all the past inductees and the ties that I had with all of them. I mentioned a few names in my talk tonight, but I mean, it's amazing how the coaching carousel goes around and around. Everybody touches each other's lives, and good friends were developed in them years.
I love it. It wouldn't be an interview with Laurie DuPont if I didn't tell the audience, especially those in Thibodeau, I want to know who shopped for him, because look at those duds he's got on. This is unbelievable. Who picked that outfit?
This suit is about 15 years old, and probably the last time I wear it. You know, I'm not much of a suit person. I'd love to wear short pants tonight, but it's not the attire.
No, those bike shorts just wouldn't do good over there. But just, you know, emotionally, like you said, you've been honored a lot, and you've been talked about a lot, but when did it sort of hit you that, hey, man, this is a pretty big deal tonight?
Well, once it got out that I was being inducted, the phone calls, the people that rang and congratulated me, it bring back a lot of memories, you know. A lot of coaches, a lot of that I competed against that said well-deserved, and you never think it's going to be me, but and I look at the ones that are inducted before me, we had the who's who. And I guess I'm involved in that now, and I'm proud to be part of the fraternity and sorority.
Coach, congratulations. Enjoy your night, because you're well-deserving.
Well, I appreciate it, Martin. And like I used to always tell everybody else, I'm going to leave it like this. Go River Parish football.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Our next inductee into the 2023 Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame is Mr. Greg Harding.
I grew up down Stovall, Prince Collins, right by the high-rise building. I guess one of the hardest things for me was growing up, I was kind of like in that time of era where you had segregated and integrated schools. I went to all-black school up until second grade, and then I went to integrated school in third grade. So coming up, basically, we didn't play any organized sports besides baseball. And as I got a little older, I had to really sneak away to go play with the Rebels, with Martin Falls and Joe Waits and all those guys. Because you got to realize, we're talking about the early 70s, and it just was a few years before that basically integrated schools. So the race relationship really wasn't, I guess as a whole, wasn't that bad, but I never experienced anything on the team when it came down to anything dealing with race. I became more familiarized with football compared to baseball. Baseball, you need a bad glove and need a field to play on, you know. So football was something that we would call sandlot football. We'd go in the park, I think Scotland Street Park, and play like flag football, sometimes tackle football. They asked me a question back when I was in 8th or 9th grade. I said, well, you know what, I wanted to be a policeman, which I was at one time when I was at Nichols. I wanted to be a fireman, which I did become a fireman. And I think I said I wanted to be a professional athlete. I can't remember what sport it was. You know, the most memorable thing for me was that basically, you know, coming from a segregated school, being able to have white friends on the football team that was out there trying to accomplish the same goals. Carr, who's a council member of District 2, and my older brother, who's now deceased. Those guys would get me in the backyard and play on their knees, because at that time I was a little kid, and they would drill me and run, because they saw something in me that I didn't see. First year that was Terrebonne B. Of course, football is the first sports, and I started out playing football there. I started out actually playing wide receiver, you know, because I was tall, and then Paul Fitch, you know, which was an all-state baseball player, was the quarterback, and we kind of more like tag team on what me and Martin did, just take the ball, just throw it deep long, you know. And I did the high hurdle, low hurdles, which at the time was 180 lows, I think 110 highs. I used to do the high jump and also run the mile relay, and sometimes long jump and triple jump. I guess I was more a humble guy. I knew I was good, I just didn't realize how good I was until later on, more like my junior, senior year, when I started getting, you know, being recruited to go to the next level. The intention was to go to Baton Rouge and be a Southern Jaguar. So lo and behold, the Bayou Classic in New Orleans, Southern plays Grambling, Southern lose a game, the next day they fired the coach. So at that particular time, I said, well, you know what, I mean, they still was gonna honor the scholarship, but I was gonna be playing for a guy that really didn't actually recruit me. So at that particular time, I decided I need to go to Nichols and just let the chips fall where they may fall. I mean, looking at the success I had there at Nichols, I don't know if I could have been that successful in any other school. I think that in the long run, it was the best choice for me. Most people don't realize this, and I'm just going to put that out there now, is that when Nichols signed me, they told me I'd never play defensive back again. So we're going to put you on the wide receiver side, and actually my first year, I played wide receiver. And middle part of my second year, they moved me to cornerback. You know, and I said, they called me in the office, and I said, well, I thought you guys said I wasn't going to play defensive back. I said, no, well, the good thing about it, the more you can do, the better off you are. I said, okay. So I accepted. I was a little disappointed, but I accepted. And they put me at cornerback. And Coach Joe McGoey, who was my defensive back coach at the time, said that, I thought he was blowing smoke up my behind, to be honest with you. He said that you're going to break, and at this particular time, Gary Barbaro was an all-pro with the Kansas City Chiefs. So you're going to break his record. So I said, okay, all right, Coach, whatever you say. So one day a scout from the Cowboys came in there, and Coach McGoey called me in there and said, listen, hey, this guy here is going to break Gary Barbaro's record. And he shook my hand, he introduced himself to me. So from that point on, I think that second year, I think I had maybe 2 or 3 interceptions my sophomore year. I can't totally remember the number. But I think what helped me out was that I basically was a good reader on routes by being a wide receiver. So I knew the route trees. That 1980 year was just one of those years that, I mean, it's like it was a magical year. And once I started intercepting balls like that, then it became harder because teams started throwing away from me. You know, after my junior year, my stock rose. Okay, Emerson Walls led the nation. I was second in the nation, and Ronnie Lott was third in the nation. Them guys were seniors, and I was juniors. After my senior year, you know, I started having leg problems, my hamstrings. I just wasn't worried about the NFL. We talked to my brother, and I went and started working with the fire department. And what happened is that you're there 24 hours, so I would lift weights there, and I would do my running and my exercises, you know, over there. So I get a guy by the name of John Guagua, became my agent. The Houston Gamblers reached out to me. So actually I went there with them, and one of the scouts on the Saints remembered what I did at Nichols, and he reached out to me, called me down for a workout, and I mean, they signed me on the spot. It was a very, very big jump. I think what helped me out was that Bum Phillips allowed me to come and work out 4 days a week with the off training before the season started. Working out Monday through Thursday with the teams, lifting with them, learning the different defenses and stuff like that. I think I'd have been lost, but I kind of adjusted pretty quick. It was a numbers thing, but they didn't actually make you feel like it. I mean, I love playing for the Saints, right here in my backyard, right next door to Terrebonne Parish. My second year in New Orleans, I developed a hamstring problem down there. I had some other offers to stay in the NFL. But at that particular time, I decided, you know what, I think I need to maybe get away and try something different. I just get a call out the blue from a scout from Canada. I didn't even know anything about Canada. It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful place to live, Canada. The only bad thing about it is that it gets so cold. It's harder playing there as a defensive back, mainly because the side backs can run toward the line of scrimmage. The football field is 110 yards long. The end zones is 20 yards long, and the football field is about 15 yards wide. And every down, they pretty much passing the ball.
Quarterback, demi-droit numéro 4, number 4, Greg Harding.
Is on the offense, is as good as anybody's. Oh, Ray Alexander went high for it. The good coverage provided by Greg Harding.
I had a lot of fun there. The people were very receptive to me, being from Louisiana, and all you had to say, New Orleans, or New Orleans, so they say, Bourbon Street, and they can pretty much identify with, you know, who you are and where you was from.
And of course, the reliable Rocky DiPietro.
So from their 28, Kerrigan comes out throwing. Just as well for him that the ball was underthrown, because Greg Harding would have been in the end zone going the other way, looking for Steve Stapler, was Kerrigan.
It was one of those moments that I had that I felt that maybe I could come back and try it again, but then I realized that it really wasn't for me. I just felt that Houma was my place, that I needed to be. I never really give it a second guess thought of moving somewhere else or living somewhere else. One of my best friends, Jerome Barkin, who's president of NAACP, and he said, man, listen, you'll be a good school board representative, you'll be good in the community. I get to some thought, and I jumped on board with it, and with 26, 27 years later, I'm still dealing with it. Coach TPR teams, boys and girls, because those individuals are our future. My mother is living. She's 88 years old, thank God for that. She's president of the Women's Day Association here in Terrebonne Parish, and she formed that situation. I have a total of 5 kids, 3 from previous, and my daughter Shakira went to Tulane University, played there, got her undergrad and also a master's at Tulane. And now this May she'll be getting her doctor's degree. And she was selected, she was one of 9 students that have been selected to go to Duke University to do her residency. My son Gregory is a senior at Terrebonne High. He's running track. He's playing football. He's finding his way through. He's getting a couple of looks at, he hasn't got in office yet, but he's getting a couple of looks and couple of inquiries from teams. My wife, Sharon Pico Harding, she's the controller. I mean, I just go out and make it happen. She makes sure that everything is organized, pretty much put together. She taught school for about 7, 8 years. And then she's a counselor, a private counselor with dealing with kids that have behavior problems. I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with the accomplishment that I have done. And like I said earlier, maybe my pro career probably have been better. That's the way it goes. Some things you can control, some things that you cannot control. I've had a ton of coaches that basically, pretty much helped me along the way to get to where I'm actually at. Each one of them brought something different. My career might not have been the way I wanted to have been. I would have liked to have played maybe 10, 15 years. But I knew at that particular time that I've accomplished what I set out to accomplish, which going back and look at the percentage, you're talking about maybe, 2-3% of college guys even make it. So I'll beat the odds.
Presenting Mr. Greg Harding with his award tonight is Bobby Arsenault, Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame committee member. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Greg Harding.
into the back. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank God for giving me this opportunity to be able to accept this award tonight. Without him, this would not be possible. I also would like to thank my mother for all the prayers that she had given me. Thank you, Mother. And my family, especially my two older brothers, Lawrence, who is now deceased, and Carl Harding, Councilman of District 2. We started playing football in our backyard. They would be on their knees playing with me. My best friend, Jerome Barking, of the NAACP, for coming to all my games as a kid in high school and supporting me throughout my school board elections. My best teammate, Fred Stadium, for not getting mad at me for not catching most of the touchdown passes that Paul Fish threw to me. I would like to thank Mr. Bobby Arsenault and Troy Johnson for nominating me and the committee for selecting me. All my teammates and coaches over the years. Stan, what a great job you did with the documentary there. I couldn't say any more about that. Thank you for that. My wife, Sharon Harding, for understanding my business schedule and the role that I play in our community. For all the early and late phone calls I get, trips I take, and meetings that I attend, and trying to solve other people's problems, I love you for that. And my last two kids for putting up my dictatorship. But for one of them, it paid off. I've always wanted them to have a better life than what I had. She is now, I can say, I'm trying to figure out, should I call her Shakira Harding, or should I call her Dr. Shakira Harding? She just graduated from Tulane a couple weeks ago. LSU, I'm sorry, I apologize, LSU. Got that mixed up. Did I say Tulane? Well, she attended Tulane for undergrad. Okay, thank you, daughter. I'm a little nervous. And also Gregory Harding Jr. for having my last name. I came from a long ways. My grandparents could not read nor write. My mother had to quit school in the 8th grade to go to work in the cane field, but later went back to finish up. This has been a tremendous journey for me. My first 2 years in school was at Southside Elementary. At that time, it was an all-black school. So as a young kid growing up, I was wondering why it was like that. All the white kids was at one school, and we was at another. And that we had to drink from an all-color water fountain. Once I became a little older, I understood why. I never did feel that we were poor or hurting for anything. I guess my parents helped us out with that. I do not harbor any anger or any ill feelings toward no one. But along the way, I did find out by playing sports that it did not matter the color of your skin or whether you was a Democrat, a Republican, or rich or poor. It was all about the team playing together. Stuck. Also, I started to realize that maybe I could make new friends by playing sports. So I signed up to play football. My parents didn't know I was playing. I could not remember who signed me up. It might have been Lawrence Carr. So over the years, I had played with a ton of people. So the first friend I made was Martin Falls. Yes, it was Martin Falls, the same Martin Falls that's here. We hit it off for the first day. I cannot remember how many touchdown passes he threw me, but I bet you the most of them, we made them up in the huddle. He would change the plays and say, "Duck, go long." Thank you, Martin. I did not know whether you liked me or not, but I would catch all your passes anyway. Joking, Martin. I have so much to say in such a short time. I've been blessed to have been able to make some money and enjoy what I have accomplished. Serving on the school board for 25 years, 3 of those years as president, and 3 more as vice president, serving as vice president of the NAACP, and working for the Recreation Department. Being in a position to help our youth in our community. I do not know what the next chapter would be in my life, but I will face it head on. Again, thank each and every one of you, and may God bless.
Just your thoughts about tonight, Greg?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank God for giving me this opportunity to be here tonight. And just basically, I'm ecstatic. It's something that basically you never dream of. And there's a lot of other athletes that could be here. But I'm here, and I'm thankful to be here, Martin.
Coach McGooey, I remember years ago, I think you told me or somebody told me that you went to Nichols as a wide receiver. Of course, I wouldn't have thought you would have gone as anything else. But they needed defensive players. So Coach McGooey took a liking to you. Then you became an All-American. I mean, he saw something, didn't he?
Well, you know, if you go back and you think back, I did both ways in high school. I played both wide receiver and defensive back. And he saw something at a young age, and he told me, which I didn't believe it at the time, that I was going to break the record, the career interception record up there, and that was held by, can't think his name right now.
Gary Barbaro.
Gary Barbaro. And at that time, he was all-pro in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. You're right.
He took one, I think, 109 yards for a touchdown back with the Chiefs. And I used to follow you, and then, of course, you were getting tryouts with the Saints, and you played in Canada, and you did different things. And I'd always tell anybody who was around me, that was my Bantam League wide receiver right there. But when did you know you were a pretty good athlete?
I think my junior year. Basically, when I thought that I was a pretty decent athlete, when I was doing things on both sides of the ball, on offense and also defense. But it all started back with Bantam League football. I mean, it started with you taking a liking to me, throwing me touchdown passes.
Well, it's easy to throw you touchdown pass and Will Percy on the other side. But I was telling Stan, and he didn't realize that you joined us in the booth a few times for high school football. So you've had a versatile career, haven't you?
Yeah, and that was very fun. But you guys fired me after the third episode. But I mean, no, I'm just clowning. Yeah, it was fun. I don't mind doing anything to help out the community. That's just the type of person that I am, Martin.
Yeah. And just when the lights go on tonight and they call you up, is this sort of, I don't want to say the culmination, you're a young man, but this sure is a big piece of icing on the cake, isn't it?
Yes, I don't know how I'm going to respond. Right now I got chill bones thinking about it because, I mean, this is a great honor, and it's a good thing that that you guys are putting this program on, because you have a lot of great athletes that's in this area that really don't get the recognition. So I'm just glad to be in that number tonight.
And I was telling the Miles family, of course, we all were in track and field too together, but of course, high jump, me and you, but when you go to long jump and triple jump, there's Jesse. That was some pretty good competition.
Yes, I mean, Jesse Miles was a legend in his own time.
Yeah.
He made a name for himself. And, you know, when you go back and look at the athletes that we played ball against and ran track, we had some good athletes back in the days, to be honest with you.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Our next inductee into the 2023 Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame is Mr. Dalton LeBlanc.
Well, I grew up on Grand Prairie Road around Prospect Street, and it was a pretty tough neighborhood as far as what we did. We played football without pads, tackle football, and there was some pretty big kids around there, and that helped me get a little faster just to stay away from them. My parents sent me to Holy Cross Camp in Waveland, Mississippi, and I set a camp record as far as points, 499 out of 500. And I was faster than any of the other kids around there. And so I kind of learned that when you look at all kind of kids coming from all kind of places, that I could compete or win in races. The first time I ever participated in sports was probably junior high. Well, I was in the band, played the clarinet and the saxophone, and I love music today. And back in those days, you had to make a choice between music or athletics, and so I chose athletics, thank goodness, and wound up going out for the track team. Coach Al Tragle wanted me to run the hurdles because it cut down on the competition versus the sprints. There's a lot of kids that are fast, but a lot of people can't hurdle. I was lucky enough to have Coach Al Tragle as my coach. He was smart. He knew how to take the cobwebs out of your head and your doubts and your insecurities and so forth. One day we were at a track meet, and a coach for the other team said, "Coach Tragle, you have any sprinters?" He said, "No, I don't have anybody." And he said, "Hey, LeBlanc, go run that 100. So I went over there and won it. And the other coach said, "Coach Tragle, I think you found a sprinter." You know? Played a little football. I wasn't a starter, but had some success in the 10th grade. Believe it or not, a funny book is what really helped me be successful. We used to read comic books back then, Superman and Batman and all, and there was a picture of a skinny kid on the beach getting sand kicked in his face. And so, and the girlfriend left with the guy that was all muscular. So I said, "Man, look at there, you know." So I ordered some Joe Weider free weights. And all summer, from about June, July, and August, I'd work out 3 days a week from about 6 o'clock at night to 9 o'clock at night, and with free weights. And every week put on 10 more pounds. And I got strong and put on muscles for the first time in my life. And I think that was one of the contributing reasons that I got stronger and had some success in my junior and senior year. In my junior year, it wasn't expected for me to win, but my best race was the hurdles. So I won the low hurdles. That I thought I had a chance at, but the 100, I don't know, just, who knows, there it was, you know. So I won state that year in two events. You know, Joe LaBruza was the fastest guy back then, and he had a win-aided 9.6 time. And he came to Terrebonne to run us, and it was a new track. And I wound up beating Joe as a sophomore. When I was recruited by LSU, I went up there, and they called Joe over, and he said, "Want you to meet Joe LaBruza." I said, "Oh, I know him." And he says, "Oh, Dalton," he says, "it's finally good to see your face." And I was a little embarrassed by that. I was kind of expected to win, and I didn't feel like it was pressure. I just feel like it was just something to do for the team and keep competing, you know. And I got recruited by University of Houston, LSU. I had a scholarship actually to West Point, and I wasn't smart enough to know that'd been the one to take. But I wanted to run track, and I wanted to be an architect. But I guess I could run faster than I could draw, so I wound up going to Northeast because they had a lot of world record holders and All-Americans on their team. And they were one of the track powers of the South. And so I decided I'd go to a track school. I pretty much adapted. It was a long way away, but we didn't come home on the weekends. And it wasn't a very big school, so, you know, we didn't have much to do but train. My freshman year, I scored more points than anybody else on the team, and I didn't figure that. The coach had told me that. I didn't know it. I just kept running races, hoping to win. My sophomore year, I was gonna, be a hurdler again, and a guy transferred from the Naval Academy, and he was the third best hurdler in America. And we ran against each other a couple of times, and he just tore me up. So I said, "Whoa. It's no use placing second all the time." I went back to the sprints. I liked hurdling until Roger Morgan came to town. He was a great hurdler, great guy. And he and I became good friends. Yeah, I think the sprints was better for me. It wound up being part of my dream from when I was 9 years old. A guy challenged me to go out for the football team. And I said, "Well, I think I will." So I went and asked the coach if I could have some shoes. He said, "Oh, yeah." He handed me the shoes, and I came home and ran in football shoes a little bit. So we were going out to our first game, and I'm sitting in the bus, and we're going out there, and I go, "Oh, my Lord, what have I done? Because I knew I was going to get hit pretty good. We played East Carolina Pirates, who was Atlantic Coast champions, and we went over there in their home field, and we wound up beating them. I scored twice that day. Football is such a team sport that it was a lot more fun actually than track and field. Track and field is such an individual sport that there's a lot more pressure on you. And I felt like being part of that team. We were about number 9 in America Small College that year. McNeese recruited Terrebonne High School football players, and there was tons of football players. Tony Bird, David Bourgeois, Errol Estee, the Marsheves, all kind of players from Terrebonne went to McNeese. So we were going to go down there and play them. I asked those boys, I said, well, what was your game plan? They said, well, it was going to stop you. I ran 70 yards on the first time I touched the ball and scored a touchdown. And after that, it got real tough because whether I had the ball or not, there was somebody hitting me. I had been drafted by the 49ers, and they, got a couple of good steak dinners out of that. But I decided not to sign that because the Houston Striders had recruited me to run with them. And they had pretty good athletes on the Houston Striders. The world record holder in the 100 meters was Jim Hines. He was on the team. John Carlos, he was on the team. I would have done some things different because I dieted in college, and it wound up causing leg injuries, in my opinion. What I should have done was more weight training and bulked up to be more of a sprinter rather than a hurdler or a quarter miler. I think I'd have had more success because that 1 year of football put strength back in my legs, and that's when I started excelling. I actually got faster after college when I was running for the Houston Striders and then the Army. The world record holders in the 4x100 relay was USC at the time, and I'd run against a guy indoors. He outleaned me, but it was a close race. His name was Lennox Miller. He was a 2 or 3 time NCAA 100-meter champion, and he was their anchor man for USC. And we were out in California at the Coliseum, and they challenged us, the Houston Striders, to a 4x100 race. And so I led off, and I handed it off the stick to John Carlos, who wasn't bad. He was, second in the Olympics. And then our third man was Timmons running against O.J. Simpson for them. And then our anchor man was the world record holders, but running against Lennox Miller. Lennox Miller outleaned him, and so they continued to be the champions. But it was a great race. It was a lot of experience running with those kind of world-class athletes. Went through ROTC in college and figured I was going to go to Germany. I picked Armor as my branch, figuring, they'll send me to Germany. But the Army has a way of sending you where they want to, and that was Vietnam. But in the meantime, they had, I guess, figured out I was a pretty good athlete, so they put me on the All-Army track team out in California, and there was tons of Olympians on that team, and wound up winning the Inter-Service Championship in Texas. That's where the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, and the Navy, and also run against each other. And then the Military Olympics that year was in Athens, Greece, and I went to Athens and wound up getting a silver medal there. So that set us up to go to France for the Military Olympics again. And in that competition in France, which I kind of figured was going to be my last race because I figured I was destined to go to Vietnam. They wanted all the soldiers there. About halfway through that race, I accelerated again into that other gears that you have to try to do if you're going to win, and that's when I won that race and wound up being that gold medal that I always dreamed about. Got to hear the national anthem and stand on that victory stand, which was my dream. You have to have a certain gift to be there, but you also have to work at it. I had studied the starting techniques of Oman Harry, who was the German gold medal winner in the 1960 Olympics and studied a lot of the German techniques, and it was successful by learning what those scientific people did. And so it's a combination of some gifts from God and some hard work. My dream was to live in California, and I'm so glad I didn't do that. I'd given a tour of the campus to a lady and her daughter, and she went back and told this guy at State Farm, says, "Hey, I met a nice young man, pretty good personality. Y'all need to meet him." So he called me up, and I said, "Oh, no, sir." I said, "My daddy worked so hard in insurance. That's not for me." He said, "Well, don't you just come out and look at us?" So I went out there and found out they were the #1 auto insurance company in America, #1 homeowners insurance company in America. I said, "Well, that sounds good." He said, "Well, look, we have an opening in Houma." I said, "Well, good." So I went back home and started, worked hard at it, knocked on doors, door to door in the hot summers. I fell back in love with Houma, and I'm so glad I did because it's been good for me and my family, and I wouldn't live anywhere else. This is great. Marie's a great wife, and she's very supportive, comes in and pays the bills every week. She's a big asset to my insurance agency and my real estate company. Yeah, I'm still working. I still enjoy it, but my staff and I worked hard to take care of the people, and that's mainly why I'm still doing it, for my staff and for my policyholders. I had a dream back then when I was about 9 years old of someday hearing the Star-Spangled Banner and representing the United States and being on the gold, not the silver, on the gold stand and hear the national anthem. And it took maybe 12-something years, but that dream finally came true in my last race that I competed in France.
Presenting Dalton LeBlanc with his award tonight is Mary Chauvin, Chair of the Foundation of Terrebonne General Health System. Mr. Dalton LeBlanc.
Well, good evening. What an honor to be here. I was taking a shower today and I said, I just can't believe this is happening. You know, just hard to believe I'd kind of dreamed about it. I've been sponsoring this program. You know, it's a minor thing to do because they do such great work for the kids. And that's the main reason that I contribute and sponsor to it. But, you know, you don't have to worry about an insurance agent being too long-winded. Because right down there, my father-in-law, a retired school principal, and I heard he's got a stopwatch on. Anyway, yeah, Coach Al Tragle, 2 of his sons are here tonight to honor him and myself. Thank you very much for coming, Scott and Tim. You know, a coach makes all the difference in the world. And boy, he had coached in the Army when he was in the Army and played football for the Army. He was a real tough guy. You all know. And And Terrebonne High School was his first high school coaching job. Well, boy, he ran us hard. Anybody who ever had Coach Al Tragle as a coach knew you're going to work. So he did a great job, but he was just a fine man. And then my college coach, well, he was a fine guy too, and all of his boys and girls were just like kids to him. He was just like a father. Well, my mother, you know, you work out for a couple hours, and then you come in and your parents say, man, that boy's crazy, he's working out, God, he's nuts, you know. But a hot meal, there was Mom cooking a hot meal. Then you look in the stands, and what do you see? I'm sorry. I just wish they would be here tonight. Wouldn't it be nice to have our parents with us as long as we could have it, huh? But and why you get emotions, because you're looking at the stands and you're in Memphis and it's freezing. You don't even want to leave the locker room because it's 30 degrees and you got to go out there and run the hurdles. And you know, Greg, you're going to pull a muscle running the hurdles in 30 degrees. But a lot of these former athletes are just admire the heck out of them. Frank Lewis, he and I shoot the bull a lot in my office. He and I have a lot in common. I said, you know, you wearing glasses? Did you wear glasses when you went to Pittsburgh Steelers? No. Did you do that when you were, you know, playing for Grambling? No. I said, then Frank, you must have caught that little white spot, right? He said, yeah, how'd you know that? I said, I was blind too, you know. But great guys, just great guys. But they, you know, they were there for you. And so then there was a guy named Dave Rickey. Not many people knew him. He's also deceased. He put together some of the best sprinters around. You know, Jim Hines, world record holder. John Carlos, black glove guy. Great sprinter. He was a good friend of mine. They were good people. But successful coaches and parents, they're just so important to our families and to our schools. And then I want to thank Northeast because, you know, 4 years track scholarship, walk on, get another scholarship, give you a graduate assistantship to get a master's degree, heck, give you $50 a month laundry money. I mean, boy, that was the deal back then, you know. The problem, Greg, we should have been born now. We get all that name and image thing. We might make a few more bucks, you know. But that's just the times, how it was. Things change. My 5 children, man, that's the greatest accomplishment there. They're beautiful. And my wife, she's so sweet and smart and wonderful. And my college roommate, he's down there. He knows all kind of secrets on me. And got some great close friends there. And I tell you, also I have several of my insurance staff members. And I wish I could tell you more about them. But we had the most claims in the state of Louisiana for Ida. We probably had the most for several other hurricanes. They worked their heinies off to give good service. And they do a great job. My maintenance man's there. He takes care of all that kind of stuff every day. And it's great to have good people to work with. Happy to have Martin Falls do such a great job on one-on-one. Man, he makes you look good. Terrebonne General Committee for selecting me, thank you very much. Outstanding men and women, coaches and athletes that have been members. I feel honored to be a part of that group. And Stan Gregoire and his team, they do great. You know, successful athletes are gifted with some stuff physically. But it's also, you got to be tough-minded. It's mental. Greg and I were talking about that. They get up after they're hurt. They get after they've been defeated. They get after people say, yeah, you're just a freshman, don't try to win. Better get away from me. That's what I told her. Better get away from me. That's the day I won the 100 high hurdles against 2 Olympians,
and ran the best freshman time in America. And a guy walked up to him and says, "Don't think you can win because you're a freshman." I said, "You better get away from me." How important is winning? You ever see the movie Chariots of Fire? You got to have a burning desire to win. In the locker room, right before the 100 meters, the coach says to the sprinter from England, "Now, son, it's only 10 seconds of your life." He tells the coach, "Coach, those 10 seconds are the dream for my life." Well, said it in the film, and I got to repeat it. My dream as a kid was to stand on that victory stand. And I stood on that stand and said, "There it is, Dad. I know he was deceased, but this is for you." Loving parents. Well, yeah, you study all kind of stuff. You take 1,000 starts, you sprint, you do this, you do that. You run all kind of events. And then you get down to your last race. You know it's going to be your last race because you know where you're going. There's a jet plane, and it's taking you to Vietnam. So this is it. This is your only chance. You've won the silver medal the year before, but now you have a chance to beat a guy. But he ran 0.2 of a second off the world's record in the semis, and he's the favorite. Big headlines. Pender, 10-100 meters. So you get ready. And what do you think about right before you get in the blocks? True story. I'm at Houma Elementary. It's the 4th grade. Let's race. Thank y'all. God bless America and this country. Thank you.
All right, another inductee into tonight's Hall of Fame, Dalton LeBlanc. You saw him on one-on-one recently, and a lot of people were going, "Wow, I never realized Dalton was that good an athlete." Well, they know now. What does tonight mean for you?
Well, a great deal. It's a great honor. As I was taking a shower, I was going, "I can't believe this is happening." Yeah. It's just hard to believe. So I'm very appreciative and grateful.
I mean, the core of people that you're going in with is pretty incredible. Pat Zush, Laurie DuPont, Jesse Miles, Greg Harding, Harry McCullough. So it's a good group.
It is a good group. I've been coming to all these because I help sponsor it because I believe in what they do to help the kids.
Yeah.
And I've always been impressed with the people that they've inducted. I mean, unbelievable, gifted coaches and athletes, men and women.
But when you think about it, all the athletes that have come through this area in the Tri-Parish, and we're not that far into this in years, and then Dalton LeBlanc gets a call, and they tell you you're going to be inducted. Tell me what was going through your mind.
Well, I was surprised. I'd seen somebody that's in the foundation at Rotary, and she didn't say anything. And my wife was with me at Rotary, which is unusual. And she said, "Well, let's go to the office. I've got some work to do." So we went over there, and as I was walking in, there was the foundation with a letter to invite me to be inducted. I thought it was a great surprise and a great honor.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Next up as an inductee for the 2023 Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame, Harry McCullough.
I grew up a block away from the cathedral, right by St. Francis. It was right by now where Joe Waits' law office is, and the old library. That house was right in between there. You know, it worked good for us. I was able to run back and forth to school all the time and play on all the school equipment and do all that kind of stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot of friends around my area. Back in the day, you could get on your bike and drive out to Mulberry or Barrios, where most of my friends lived, or Broadmoor. I was a football guy. My walls were filled not with quarterbacks, with middle linebackers. Dick Butkus, Tommy Novus. I always had a late birthday, so I was always like the baby. You know, I was born in November, so I always got to play a year younger than most of my peer group that I was with. But it did help me always playing against older guys. So once I got playing against people my age, it helped me. And in fact, it helped me in baseball, because once I got drafted, I played as a younger player. You couldn't play as a 9-year-old unless you weighed 100 pounds. Well, I was right on the edge. I was about 90, you know, but I wanted to play so bad football that my parents were like, all right, we're gonna help you a little bit. So woke up that morning, ate a huge breakfast, drank water all day long, just trying to get to 100 pounds, and actually did sneak some, like, we had some horseshoes, and I snuck some horseshoes into my back pocket so I can go in it, and I tipped the scales right at 99, right at 100 that day. Played with the Rebels. We always had a good team. We always, you know, Martin Falls, Jimmy Watkins were on my team. Paul Fitch was a quarterback at the end, and of course we always seemed like we had great wide receivers. Dud Harding was one of our receivers. Tootie White was my first coach, and they was like, hey, he would play for the Houma Indians, you know? So that was a big deal to play for him. I do remember, you know, coming out, and Ernie Brown was one of the players, and Ernie was precocious. Again, he was a 12-year-old, I was a 9-year-old. He looked like he was 7'4" on the mound, and I remember just going, this is not, I'm hoping I'm gonna walk, because this is not gonna work in well. I wasn't ready to play as a freshman by any means. By the time we got to baseball that sophomore year, you kind of, you know, you start growing up a little bit. And I went from being the little kid that couldn't letter on the football team as a sophomore. Now suddenly I'm the first starter of our peer group. It's kind of where it took off. And then surprisingly, that spring, when we go to do spring football, now I kind of grew up. Now I'm holding my own on the football field. I had a football mentality, but I knew baseball was probably going to be. I wasn't going to have a chance to play in the NFL, where I was starting to kind of see scouts were starting to show up a little bit. Hey, you might have a chance to play baseball, college baseball, really. Wasn't really thinking big leagues at that time, but a chance to play maybe in college. That was a great year, and we went all the way to state championship. Probably shouldn't have got there, but we played hard, and it kind of caught up to us. So we were the little team that good in football. We were scrappy. We shouldn't have been there. We kept winning, just finding a way. Baseball, we were the powerhouse. We were the team. We had the players. Our whole lineup was seniors. We were all stacked. Everybody was hitting 300-400. You know, I was pitching. We had a good staff. We were the team that should have won the state championship, and we lost at Central. So it was almost a reverse. So in football, we shouldn't have been there. We played in the state championship. In baseball, we should have been there, and then we get beat in the semifinals. The 1971 team that did win the state championship, and that's all we followed, all those guys. You know, they had real good football teams too. But that's, you know, we didn't have the internet, and we didn't play video games. We wouldn't watch our brothers play. So those guys were my heroes. They had won state championship. We were LSU people, so that's where I was going to go. Towards the end of my school year, I'm recruited by Arkansas, had started to call me. UL Lafayette was calling me, and they were doing a good job. And then Nichols was talking about being a two-sport athlete at Nichols. You know, Coach Albert actually made a call to LSU and said, hey, this guy, he's yours if you want him. And they were like, oh, we don't have a coach. He can come look at the facilities and on until we hire a coach. Well, the best program in the state that year was USL. So I went over to USL. They had a good team. They won 42 games the year before and loved it. It was really good. I was gonna pitch and play first base, and we play a couple of games in the fall. And I said, man, I'd like to catch, you know? He's like, you catch? I'm like, yeah, that's the position I want to play. I didn't play in high school because of having to pitch and playing third. And he goes, okay, we'll let you catch a little bit. Well, I didn't know, but what he did was playing Southern, who always had some racehorses on the bases, you know, and every time they get a guy on, he would say, just send him. So in it, I threw out about 5 guys in a couple of innings in an inter-squad game, and they're all like going, whoa, we need to take a look at this. Before you know it, I'm catching opening day. I walk up to the plate, I'm a college baseball player now, and this guy, Frank Wills, I'd never heard of, and he throws the first pitch about 100 miles an hour, and I'm going, I'd just soon retire right now. I know I had a hat trick of strikeouts, maybe a golden sombrero. I might have had 4 strikeouts. Frank Wills then went #1 pick. He was the #1 pick with the Kansas City Royals. That first day of going, I got no chance to like, I have arrived to like, I got a lot to learn. I learned all that in the first at bat. I had to learn how to be a hitter, and that's how college is. We were in the Jayhawk League. We played Iowa, Kansas, South Dakota. It was like a minor league team, but it was college, and it was the best thing ever happened. I learned how to catch, learned how to frame the ball, learned how to hit the ball the other way, and it was completely different. That January, they had the coaches convention in New Orleans at the Hilton. Went there and met the coach from Jayhawk League, and while I was there, the Arizona State coach, the pitching coach was there, and he's like whispering something to the coach. He walks out of the room, and he said, look, he can't tell you anything. We can't all be in the same room. He would love you to come and play for Arizona State, which was like the top. It was like LSU then. Well, I'll have to transfer, and this is January. I'm about to start the year. And he goes, well, we'll get you a spot at a junior college. You come play, the next year you'll be our catcher. Tearfully, you know, I just thought I'd like sneak out of town, but you know, I had to go tell the coach, and I was crying and all. Casa Grande and Coolidge are 20 miles apart. In the middle, 10 miles in between, there's this little campus with about 5 buildings. That's Central Arizona Junior College. And it was me, a bunch of guys from Puerto Rico that were coming in with the Brewers. It focused me, you know. I wasn't going out at night. I wasn't going to the keg in Lafayette. I wasn't hanging out. It focused me. I lost a little weight. Again, Louisiana's not a baseball hotbed. There's like 40 scouts in the stand. I'm like, well, who are they here to see? And they're like, they're here to see you. Take infield, right? Just for me to throw and watch. And it was like, man, there's a bunch of dudes in Louisiana can do this. It was a totally different mindset for baseball at the time. So the Braves draft me, you know. I was fired up. I was number 55 overall, which was the second player in the 3rd round at the time, but 55 overall, which today's slot would have been pretty good payday. Congratulations. They started calling me Hank, you know. I'm like, well, I've never been Hank before, but, you know, the Braves, Hank Aaron stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. We're going to fly you and your parents and my agent, who was my brother Eddie. He wasn't really an agent, but Eddie will take a trip. Flew us all first class into Fulton County Stadium, and they put us up there. So, you know, I was ready to be the next guy, you know. My dad's like, son, I really want you to get a college education. You need to graduate. I said, Dad, look, I got to go. If they offer me a good amount, I'm going to go play. My brother, you know, the agent said, look, if they offer you 100, you're going. And I'm going, if they offer me 50, I'm going. I'm just letting y'all know, right? I want to play. He goes, we have an offer for $17,500. I was like, excuse me? You know, and again, I like very respectful. I said, you just paid more to fly us over here than that. I was just shocked. I'm like, no, I got a chance to play on the Olympic baseball team this summer. At the end of the day, he's like all mad at me now. The scouts mad at me. 25 is final offer. I'm going, thanks, I'll see. So I'm gonna go and play USA baseball that summer. So I go back to Clarinda, and then in June, July, we go to play in USA baseball. We're getting ready to go to Korea. Well, we Jimmy Carter. Afghanistan, the Russians go into Afghanistan, and we pull out and we boycott the Olympics. So the Olympic team's not there, but we still play a friendship series, the beginning of the World Games in Seoul, Korea. So hit a home run at the end to win the championship, actually, and was MVP of that. So kind of raised my stock. So now I'm gonna go back to school, thinking I'm gonna go back to UNO. But before I can go to UNO, because I only went one semester, I had to graduate from junior college. So I went to Delgado to graduate from junior college. And that made me eligible for the January draft. And then the Cardinals called and said, "You're eligible for the January draft." I was like, "Oh, okay, good." He goes, "We have the #1 pick overall in the draft. If we can get a deal with you right now, we'll take you #1. If we can't get a deal with you, we're taking somebody else." And so they end up meeting the 50. It just worked out, and the Cardinals were, again, I was really fired up to go to Cardinals. Whitey Herzog was the manager. He'd just come in. That first spring training, I caught and threw and hit, and they were like, "This is the best prospect to come through here since Ted Simmons as a catcher." So I was on my way. And it started off like that, and one of the last days of spring training, elbow had a twinge, you know? And it felt like it was like hyperextended. So every once in a while I'd go to throw and it would catch. Then suddenly I just started throwing balls high. And then you start losing confidence. And I just didn't ever, my arm came back, I had velocity and all, but I never had that offensive mentality playing defense that I had. I was just never a player I thought I could have been. So there was a period there I could really catch, and then there was a period I could really hit. And there was probably 2 weeks where I was a hell of a prospect. You know, you start white knuckling a little more, you start thinking about things a little more as you get to 23, 24. It sounds crazy now to think that's old, but you start thinking about those things. If I'd have been free and easy as a 19-year-old, I guarantee I'd have been just as good a player in the big leagues. You know, Martin and I are best buds, and he was starting up HTV. So I started helping Martin with that, help him videotape some things, learned how to white balance, and learned how to use a tripod and those kind of things, learned how to edit. And then when I finished playing baseball, I went back to LSU, and I went to one of the career days. And the news director that I met at Channel 3 in Lafayette, she says, "You need to come do an internship here." I said, "Well, I'm not really eligible." She's like, "I don't care. You got experience. You got a look. You're going to be a sportscaster one day." I'm like, "Nah, I really kind of want to do it." She said, "No, just don't give up sports." Martin and myself and a couple of my friends were doing music videos, and they looked similar to what they were doing on MTV at the time. And we needed some girls to be in the music video. So Martin knew some girls that grew up on his street. So we walked into the house, and I met this girl, Evelyn Olivier, and Evelyn and I have been together ever since. We have 2 kids. My son Cameron is now 33. He's working in Baton Rouge. My daughter's now 30, Callan. Just got married New Year's Eve. So we're hoping for grandkids. I keep telling them, I was like, "Look, if I'm gonna take these kids to play travel baseball, we gotta do it while I'm young." And that's the one thing I had, a great support system. My family, you know, my mother and my father raised us good, my brother, my sisters. So it wasn't easy, but I loved every second of it. And so I did have to get to that point. I regret that I hurt my arm that day. I regret that I still caught over 110 games that first year with a kind of a wing that wasn't great. It probably set me back, and I might have cost myself some, but who knows? I also might not have been in the right place at the right time any other place. So I think I got into a good enough place. I used to always go. We were fortunate. The time we were born, we didn't have to go fight in wars. You know, I'd always look at those kind of things and think on a gratitude style. Like, I got to be thankful for what I have. Although, yeah, I really wish I'd have come back and bought everybody houses like I wanted to.
And presenting Harry McCullough with his award tonight is Mike Fake, Terrebonne General Board of Commissioners. Harry McCullough.
Pretty awesome. Update, I got a kid that's going to be on the way here. By the way, my daughter's pregnant. So, travel baseball in the future. So, yeah. First of all, man, we got to, doing TV as long as I did, I just want to thank Stan, Elmy, and the rest of you guys. Unbelievably put all this stuff together, man. That takes a lot of work, just editing all that stuff. Believe me, I know. I've spent a lot of nights doing this stuff. So, Stan, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Also want to, the board members for, the TGMC and, of course, the Bayou Region and the Community Sports Institute. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I do want to introduce, this my folks here. This is my father-in-law, Mr. Chris. This is Ashley. That's my future daughter-in-law. That's Cam's fiance. That's my son, Cam. Evelyn, you've seen her in the videos, sure. This is Callan. Max is right here. He'll be here soon. And this is Zach Hetrick. So they just got married New Year's Eve. So really, really fine. I also want to introduce, recognize my brother, of course, he's my agent. And his wife, Sherry, and my sister, Mindy. And look, that's the guys that I always chased, So that was a big part. Following that group, the class of 71 guys, I saw some of them here. But that's the guys I chased. And then Mindy always had boyfriends, so I'd always bring them outside and play with them, too. We weeded out a few of them dudes because they couldn't hit. But, look, I'd also like to recognize the other inductees. I know almost all of these guys we either played against or actually covered with TV a lot of times. So didn't mention it, but I was in that picture, that you were talking about Martin. I was blocking in that picture, by the way. That's why Martin had all that time. But Jesse Miles, man, what a great athlete he was. The first little star I got on my helmet was Jesse. We got a turnover. If you got a turnover, you got a little star on your helmet. Jesse we're like, oh, God, and me and Jesse. I'm like, I'm just going to hit him as hard as I did. I hit him, he kept running. I fell to my knees on the ground, and I was getting up, and I had the ball in my hands. I don't know how it happened, but it was my first fumble recovery, my first little star sticker. So that's something you remember forever, for sure. I want to thank the coaches and everybody from this area. I see a lot of them are here tonight. Coach Gano was here today. Coach Albert was here today. I saw Cam Ovant walk through here. My son's named Cam. I don't know what's going on there. But so, the coaches, I remember Bertram when we were young. Eddie was one of our coaches with Richard Mills on that Rebel team, by the way, Harold Haydell, who had a big part, of teaching me how to catch and taught me about playing baseball and doing all that kind of stuff. Brian Gano, of course, I mentioned him and Cam. But I had a hitting coach, Johnny Lewis. There was a hitting coach. And I tell you, you'll never get more instruction than to be a high draft pick that's not doing what they think you should do. It's like every day another guy would fly in from St. Louis or wherever and like, oh, extra BP today. Johnny Lewis was one of those guys. Great hitter and coach, man. I love this guy. He was awesome. And at that time, y'all remember George Brett, and he had a hitting instructor called Charlie Lau. And Charlie Lau wrote a book, and it was a big bestseller, and everybody's talking about that way they hit and transferred power and all that stuff. I was like, Johnny, dude, you need to write a book. That's what you need to do. He goes, why don't you hit like George Brett? Maybe somebody will buy it. Yeah, so I'm like, sorry, Johnny. So, yeah, look, it was 7 years playing baseball. You know, like I said, I was a football guy and had to learn a lot, but grew up a lot, learned how to, you know, do things. You know, you can't just live and die every day. You play 160 games. You have to do that. And you had to learn up, and you had to grow a lot. So I needed to do that for sure. And like I said, economically, I thought I'd be coming back into Houma and buying everybody in my family a house. And I guarantee you, the economy would have been a lot better if I'd have played 20 years in the big leagues. We'd have done better. But was awesome about it at that time, you know, when I still had to come on, I made that decision. Evelyn didn't get to do it a whole lot. She just got that last spring training, and we had to sneak back into time. That was a tough time, man. You know, I left to a lot of fanfare, and to come back in, I'm sure in talk radio up in St. Louis, I'm like Russell Workslavin or something, a #1 pick, you know, they're probably going, yeah, you remember that guy. So it was hard to sneak back into town at that time. But this community never made me feel like, dude, what happened? You know, was it drugs? No, everybody was supportive. They all understood. Actually, it was drugs. No, it wasn't. I wish it was that simple. But no, you know, you play, and you know, and as I was saying, I did learn how to play pretty good at the end. Had some really good years in AA, and had a chance. But you get locked behind players, and there's only 1 or 2 catchers on the squad, so you can get caught behind those guys. Some of those things happen. But this community never made me feel bad, and it was always awesome to come back and have the support, and then start your next career in TV with Martin and those guys, going to Lafayette, going to New Orleans, and then coming back here. Now, you know, I still do a little TV, but I also, you know, work a job. So I sell pharmaceuticals, by the way. Don't. Yeah, Ozempic, by the way. Everybody heard of that. That's what I sell. So anyway, no, I know we need to be, I was going to tell another joke, but I'm not anymore. I appreciate y'all time. It's getting late. The support of my family through all of these years has been awesome. My wife has been with me for the whole time. And as I said, we met that one day, and we've been together 37 years from that time, but 36 years married. So we're waiting for the next generations, and thank you guys so much. This means so much to me, and I appreciate it. Thank y'all very much.
All right, joining me now, I've never met this guy.
No idea.
Yeah, no idea who he is, but no, we ran the streets together. We did a lot of things together, and a lot of memories, but he's so well deserving of tonight. And Harry, as you look, I've interviewed Coach Zush already, Coach DuPont, Dalton LeBlanc. What a group to go in
Great.
with. And then you got Greg Harding coming in, and the late, great Jesse Miles. So when did it hit you?
Oh, well, it hit me right away. Almost all of those guys, Martin, I either played against, with, or watched them when I followed my brother. So I knew every one of these guys, and it's very special for me to go in with this class, and a bunch of great guys.
You remember we scrimmaged Thibodeau High our senior year, and Coach Zush was the coach, and Coach Movon would tell us how much he hated the coaching staff. And I think about 3 months later, we saw them drinking a beer together, and they were setting us up.
I think our coaching staff did that to us quite a bit.
Yeah.
They looked like they'd been watching tape all night when they'd come in the next morning. I think they were out all night most of the time, those guys. But no, Coach Zush, what I remember both, again, the rivalry, Edie White and Vanderbilt. We had Barry Blackwell, Mike Robichaux in that group. Joe Fake was on the other side. And they got in a big brawl right in front of us and by the 20-yard line. And I just remember, you know, we couldn't believe it. We hated them so much. But obviously, when you grow up and meet all those guys, they're all great guys. And boy, what a coach he was, for sure.
And what does this mean? When you look at you, I was privileged because I sort of knew your journey. But a lot of people, when they see it, they go, wow, I didn't even know he was on the Olympic team, and I didn't know this. And y'all did what? Y'all made music videos, and y'all did this. It's a pretty good career.
Not bad, not bad, right? No, I've had a lot of fun doing it. No, look, if you wouldn't have had that good curveball to make me learn how to hit and stay back, you know, that would have made all the difference.
In the 5th grade, huh?
5th grade, I was like, that might have hurt your arm, that might have hurt your development. No, but yeah, look, it was fun, it was great. We were fortunate sons, no doubt about that. And great class of guys. We all grew up. We all pushed each other in high school and all. We went to the playoffs in every sport that year, boys and girls.
We went pretty far.
Exactly. And so it was an amazing time. A good group of people all just coming together like that.
Yeah, and I'm watching Greg Harding coming through the door behind you. He's another one that was our age, and we all played on the Rebels, and just to see that talent develop. It's come a long way.
Oh, without a doubt. And, it seemed so natural back then. We talk about it all the time. We used to go to track meets, and guys were running low 9s. Mm-hmm. When you talk about that era of guys, it wasn't us.
Yeah.
It wasn't me and you.
That's why I went to field events.
Exactly. But it seemed like and we all played. We got to know everybody in the community through the HARC programs and TPR programs, so we knew everybody that went to every high school. You went to the mall and you knew everybody, and it was a great time.
Well, that's why we started making videos, because they used their athletic ability. We used our producer skill.
That was all you, man. That was all you. You had the good gear early on, man, and those videos were something special. They traveled the world. I don't know if you know it. I mean, it wasn't satellite either. It was in a suitcase, in a duffel bag, in a bus in the minor leagues, but you made it all around the world.
All right.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
The next honoree tonight going into the Hall of Fame posthumously is Jesse Miles.
He lived down Willowdale and Gray. I'm right across the bayou. And we'd actually meet each other at our houses. We'll ride our bicycles to Shreva Gym, go play tennis, go play basketball. We'd even we'll ride our bikes to Terrebonne High. We had ankle weights on our ankles, and we'd go run stadiums.
I do know this, he would sleep with a football. When he went to bed at night, he had a football in his arm, and he wanted to wake up the next day with the football still in his arm. So he wanted to play football. We didn't know in the 7th grade where that was going to end up.
We used to go out there and we'd bring our own footballs every day, to class, and like Timmy had said, we'd hold it in our hand. And when we couldn't wait for that bell to ring and go out there and resurface. And we'll come back home with holes in our shirts.
They had different activities, homeroom against homeroom. So the first thing I remember was the track, running track. And so they had the relays and the distance running and all that. In the 7th grade, Jesse had the it factor. Jesse was heads and heels over athletically, as far as basketball, running, just in general. We didn't play football at Shreva School, but later on the football came into it.
His mama was Luberta, his daddy. I can still see them, how humble both of those people were. That was Jesse.
Jesse, for the most part, was quiet. He was very humble. Jesse didn't like the limelight. He didn't like to be the spotlight.
God gave him that talent. He was just so much quicker, faster, stronger than anybody else. Baseball, basketball, no problem dunking. Shoot anywhere on the court. Just natural talent.
I really didn't know Jesse. I walked in at Evergreen as an 8th grader. I don't remember quite our 8th grade year what we ended up, but I do know our 9th grade year, 6-0. The guy had smooth moves and running over people.
Jesse was not allowed to play on the JV, right? I think maybe 1 or 2 games he got a couple plays in, but he was a varsity guy as a sophomore.
Special. When in practice, when you're standing behind and you're running plays, and the hole opens up, it's supposed to be here. The hole opens up. He just dart through it.
And let me tell you, fortunate to have Coach Rod, because he was a running back for McNeese State Cowboys. Have him, what he taught me and Jesse, just words can't describe it.
Back then, all the kids were coaching. There was no social media. There was no street agents pulling up to 7-on-7 and ruining our great game of football.
So Jesse was a cheerleader in that aspect of coming to the defense and just looking us in the eye and saying, just get us the ball back. You know, we need the ball, we'll be okay.
In Donald's mind, Don Schwab, thought that he would have been stretching him too thin. We were playing 4A football. And if he'd have been at a single A school, he'd have done everything, played tennis, done it, and would have done it. I mean, the only thing he didn't play for us was baseball, and he wanted to. I mean, he attempted, Coach James Basrow had him on the diamond one day, and Schwab says, no, he's not playing. And Jesse kind of balked, but he understood. With Schwab, he built character, he built camaraderie, he built those things, and the kids bought in.
He would put his old football films on to LSU, and me and Justice, we looking, our mouths hanging down, he's carrying 3 or 4 guys on his back. Unbelievable.
The junior and senior year was the Jody and Jesse show.
We played at EA one year. The score was 20-0. And we was running our sprint draw. And Jesse, like at halftime, he told me, he said, Coach, I could cut it back. He says, they were overloading everything, you know. So he says bring out, and so I told the lineman, I said, guys, instead of, if we were running double down, kick out to the left, he would get to the hole, and the backside had made a push. He would come out the back door. He probably had about 50 yards in the first half. The second half, he had 250. And we won the game 21. And of course, he kicked every extra point.
He kicked extra points, and now he ran into some trouble sometimes having to change his shoe, because he had to change the shoe, and he kicked with a square front kicking shoe. And it was a lot of times it was hurry up, get the shoe on, and he had to kick a field goal, kick extra point.
Coach Rob knew we can both kick the ball. So long story short, I ended up punting because I had a little bit of more hang time, and he was the kickoff guy, and Jesse can kick that ball.
Yeah, it was who's got Jesse's shoe? Stand right here. You get ready, get the shoe ready.
Ran a 26 cut, which is right off of my right side on the wrist. I ran it 8 times in a row, from our 40 down to about the 10-yard line. And we called something else and we scored a touchdown. I went back and asked Coach Schwab at the time, I said, how many times you gonna run this play? He said, till they stop it. There was many a time you didn't have to give Jesse a big hole. I mean, a lot of times he's right off your hip, right off, and bounce off of you, and he was gone. And I saw a lot of the back of his jersey.
Jesse danced from the 10-yard line, walked the chalk line, never till today, I don't see how he stayed in bounds, walked the chalk line 10 yards and went over that flag and scored that touchdown. And 10 yards, losing his balance, but he stayed in. Never would know how he did it, but he did it. It was his natural talent.
I don't know if the guy ever got tackled in the backfield.
We predominantly ran the ball. I mean, Jesse was carrying it 25 times a game. Jody was probably carrying it about 4 or 5 times a game.
I don't even remember who was our quarterback. Really didn't. All we did was run the ball. So.
Well, there was another game we played against Thibodeau, and again, we were behind. And we had run a play, and he gets out in the open, he's got a blocker, and they got a defender. So, it might have been Jody, I can't remember, it might have been when I threw the block. Back then, you could block below the waist. So, Jess is making his move, and everything ends up at his feet, and he's on one leg, and he's in the air, and he doesn't put this one down. He hops right over both of them and goes for about 50 yards and a touchdown.
We used to talk about sweetness a lot. Walter Payton. Because he was kind of like not that big back, you know, just that all heart. And that's what we and Jesse had. We had heart. Now, Jesse had natural talent, but we had the heart too to go with it.
And then, of course, he played basketball. We went to the top 20. We played in Tulane's gym against Holy Cross. And at the end of the game, he needs to make 2 free throws for us to win the game with second. He steps up there and sinks both of them. And he was just a gamer. If I could go back to myself, and we would throw the ball more, just to give Jesse the ball in the flat more. Give him the ball in what people are doing today. Give the athlete the ball in space. We didn't do that enough with him, and as good as he was, we'd have made it greater.
It was our last game, senior year. We were going to play Assumption. So you get to the field house, everybody gets dressed, you start meditating, you're about to get on the bus. So a few of us was out back, just sitting along the fence behind the field house at H.L. Bourgeois, just kind of thinking about what was going on. Some of us knew this was the last football game we were going to play. Okay, so Jesse saw me sitting by the fence, and he comes walk out there and said, so what's going on? Why are you so quiet? Because I was the rah-rah guy, all right? I was the guy that was rah-rah and getting everybody up. I said, well, this is it. I said, this is the end. I said, this is probably the last game I'll ever play in. Well, he said, I said, Jesse, you going on, man. You going to LSU. I said, you got a lot of more football in you. I said, but for me, it's the last game. And he said, well, I don't know where this is going to bring me. He said, but I hope wherever it takes me, it means as much as it does now.
Put 4 LSU tickets on his table, and for a young high school, that meant the world. And of course, me, Jesse, and his dad, I think Suave came with us, and that was a big night for us. Never forget that night with Jesse.
We definitely knew that Jesse had a chance to go play college. We didn't know as sophomores or juniors in that junior year, we didn't know it would be LSU. We knew there was the inside track at LSU with Coach Schwab, playing for the Tigers.
Jesse listened to Donald. I mean, him and Donald had conversations.
He had a bunch of letters he used to tell me in different colleges, but he was leaning more towards the Tigers, yeah.
We'd go to the game and see him after the game, and we'd go to spring practice and so on. And he'd always come around, and of course, with Donald, we'd get to go in the locker room, and he'd introduce us to the guys. Of course, back then, most of the players were Louisiana guys, and we knew of them.
Burke gets off the opening kickoff. Miles at the 1-yard line. Jesse Miles back up to the 22.
Well, he would just talk about it. It wasn't as fun in the high school days with the camaraderie with his buddies and the success we had, and then LSU's success. But the NFL is a business, and then with Coach Reed, it was a business, and he would find Jesse. I remember find him for coming into camp overweight, and back then, that wasn't the off-season OTAs back then like there is today.
I would support him when he would come on his days off. He would come over and visit me, and we would talk about old times, and I would give him some encouraging words,
And here comes the blitz, so he throws into the right flat to Miles.
20, 10, 5, touchdown, Jesse Miles! When football was over, right, when Jesse came back, he was actually working at Home Depot in Houma. And so we saw him quite often.
Jesse wasn't a big talker. If you carry on a conversation with him, you have to kind of like drag stuff out of him.
He was a quiet guy. I mean, he could run the ball 8-10 yards of play for all night long, and you could tell he was pumped up, but he wouldn't say anything.
I just remember his infectious smile.
I can't personally ever remember him ever bragging or boasting about anything he's done. He didn't want to be in the spotlight.
So, I mean, I don't remember anybody ever saying anything bad about Jesse.
As the athlete, as the ball carrier, he would be at the top. but the guys that I coach.
Presenting the award to Jesse Miles' daughter, Anika, is a member of the Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame Committee, Craig Luke.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anika. I'm Jesse's daughter. I wasn't really prepared for anything, so I had a couple minutes to put something in my phone. So we'd like to thank you all for coming out this evening. Me and my family were really blessed to have this opportunity to accept this award on my dad's behalf. He was an amazing man, a great father, and y'all know he was a remarkable athlete. We miss him so much, but this would mean the world to him if he was here with us today. So again, I want to thank y'all for coming out, and y'all have a good evening.
I'm short. Sorry. I know there was only speak but one speaker, but I would like to thank Coach Rodriguez, the whole Evergreen coaching staff that encouraged him to do better. And I also would like to you all to take an extra minute to support these young kids today. Because it was you all that brought him up. So we need someone to bring up the future generation. Okay? Thank you.
Now let's start with you. What a night. As time goes on, I was just talking with you all with Harry McCullough, who's another inductee tonight. And we remember Jesse. God, he was just head above heels over everybody. And I never forget, whenever we'd have an event against H.L. Bourgeois, I'd go, got to go against Jesse again. But he was such a kind-hearted person, too. What does tonight mean for you?
Ooh, that's a hard.
Yeah.
Well, it's really nice of y'all to include him in this. I appreciate that,
But he's so well-deserving, yeah.
It's well deserving, yes it is.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm sure it's emotional. Anika, let's talk about your dad. And what stories have you heard over the years? I'm sure people like me and Harry come up to you all the time and go, your dad was a pretty good athlete.
Well, I mean, for me, as soon as I tell people I'm Jesse's daughter, they're like, Jesse was your daddy? And I'm like, yeah, that was my dad. And then they go to talking about, like football and how he was such a great athlete. And his stats and all of that stuff. So it's every time it's always something like that.
Yeah. The legacy follows you around, doesn't it?
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And Lisa, so you got to see a lot of this because you grew up around him. And was he always that good an athlete, even as a small child?
Yes. He was very active, and anybody want to catch up with him. Where's Jesse? He's gone. He started playing like TPR softball and everything like this, and it wasn't, like the when he started to get into the actual sports, he had a whole group of people to encourage him to go out and do his best, which ended him here tonight.
And y'all know he's going to be looking down because look, he's going in with a good group, and he's going in with Greg Harding the same year, really, about the same year. Harry McCullough, about the same year. And Coach Pat Zush, who probably coached against him and probably had to do a lot of film to try to get his players ready to play against Jesse. But it's a great night, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a great night.
All right.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
And last but certainly not least of our honorees this year, Coach Pat Zush.
He lived on St. Michael Street, LaGuard Street, in 3 different houses, but all in the same neighborhood. So where I'm living now on St. Michael Street is where I've been living for the last 70, 80 years. We're only about 4 blocks from downtown Thibodaux and right in the middle of Thibodaux. We had a vacant lot where we played, mostly it was baseball and football, and I love basketball. That was it. You only played about 3 or 4 sports. That's all you had. We had no gyms in the parish. The first gym was Mount Carmel. We played on a dirt court. My father, he was a disciplinarian. He was a Hungarian. And he knew what he liked and he knew what he didn't like. And I worked with, during the summertime, I'd work at the foundry. He had a foundry and a machine shop. And I'd go out with him and he taught me a lot of things, what to like and what not to like and what to do and not to do. When he told you not to do it, you didn't do it. If you did it, you got your butt back. But when I was at Thibodaux High School, I was playing, Coach Theo Faki was the head coach. And that summer, I got in a bicycle, caught my foot, and I tore up my heel and I couldn't play. So he told me, he said, look, well, do me a job. He said, will you coach the 9th graders? So I coached the 9th grade team. And I believe we had 6 games. I believe we were either 5-1 or 6-0. And he told me, he said, Coach, he said, if you ever go to school and you can be a coach, he said, I'll hire you. And then when I got out of high school, I went to Thibodaux, to the Nichols, it was a junior college. And I played baseball over there. And then I went to Southeastern. I didn't play baseball at Southeastern, but I came back to Thibodaux. When I graduated from Southeastern in '54, the first year I taught in Lockport with Dudley Hillman. And stayed there 1 year, and then Theo Faki hired me at Thibodaux High School. Theo Faki was a heck of a coach and a good leader, a good disciplinarian.
I stayed at Thibodaux High School for 2 years. Okay. And Theo became the principal. Mm-hmm. And then they just opened Thibodaux Junior High. That was the first junior high in the parish. Mm-hmm. And I was selected as the head coach in that grade junior. I stayed there 5 years.
Vince McDonough left Thibodaux College, and they're looking for a coach, and I applied for it, and I got the job. When you went to Thibodaux College and so you only had three teachers, 3 coaches, And one coached football, one coached basketball, one coached baseball. So I coached football at one time. I had basketball, I had baseball, I had track, I coached golf, tennis, and you did everything. Then they came in with cross country, and you only had 3 or 4 coaches, so you had to double up and so. But you coached a little bit of everything. When I went to Thibodeau College, I left Thibodeau Junior High in 1961, 62, and I applied for the job. And I really didn't go through all the physical parts of Thibodeau College. And anyhow, they called me that I had the job. Oh, I went there and I said, well, I looked at the equipment room, and it was about as large as right here, with everything stacked up and so on. Where the kids dressed at? Over here. Most of them, I believe, dressed on the 3rd floor or so. I went in the shower room. They had 6 showers, I believe 3 worked. And I said, oh, Reed, I said, boy, what the hell you did? But it's one of the best moves I ever made in my life. The Brothers of the Sacred Heart. Brother Hubert and Brother L.J. Love it. Then I had some good kids and good parents and good coaches.
A's hire A's, B's hire C's. Coach Zush was an A+ because of the people he hired.
If I had a talent, I guess, was selecting assistant coaches. And I had some good ones.
Right.
And they stayed with me for years, and the offshoots, they became coaches out. And
The pinnacle of his success was the first 4 years of EDY football. Football season 1966, 67, 68, 69, in which Coach Zush, 66 had a undefeated district champion, 67 had a semifinalist team, and of course 68, 69 had 2 state championship teams.
67 was a good ball club. We just happened to play on a night, on a Saturday night in Kinder, that things just didn't work out. The weather front came in, and it was freezing, raining earlier. We didn't get any help from any of the officials. The sideline marker man, he's on my side, and they're going 8 yards for a first down, and we're going 10, and I don't know what they did on the other side. Now, 68 was a different ball club, it was more mature, and 69, I believe, was a good year, but it was a carryover from 68, the leadership and so on.
Laurie and Joe Barkey. Laurie was a quarterback. He could throw the ball, and he was a good leader. And I could call timeout and take my little chalkboard and call Laurie over and say, look, this is what we're going to do. And they get back into the huddle, tell the kids, and we did it. And the same thing with the defense. We put the little chalkboard and said, write it down, and call one of them and change it. We had good, smart kids, sharp kids. Became doctors, lawyers, engineers, designers, coaches, educators. I could change my offense and defense at the half, and they catch on right to it.
You develop talent and the ability to win. You develop leaders to direct and motivate, and you rewarded us by achieving goals we once thought were unachievable. To your credit, we all won in life.
We were fortunate to play in that era with a guy like Pat. Coach Zush has been so important to our group of guys, and has always encouraged us and demanded the best when we were football playing.
And as I was going to the brother's house, Roosevelt Sanders asked, said, Coach, can I talk to you? I said, what do you need? He said, can we come out for football? But first I said, let's check eligibility. Let's check their grades, their attendance, and so on. And I said, if they're eligible, I said, I see no reason not to play them. The All-Star game in 1969, I was with the West, and that was the first black that played in the All-Star game. I believe Charles Battle from the Shreveport area. But times has changed, and it's worked out. We had no problems.
I went to one year, half a year at Assumption High School. And the job opened up, and Neil McQuigg was the principal. And I applied for it, and I got it. And I tell you, Neil McQuigg was a good principal.
Prior to the arrival of Coach Zush in 1977, Thibodeau High had not been to the playoffs since 1962. Coach Zush was smart, and as most players would say, Coach Zush forgot more football than most coaches ever knew in a lifetime. He was firm, but always kept his cool. He was a gentleman on and off the field. He never belittled a player, instead encouraged him to not repeat his mistake.
I don't believe I raised my voice too much, but when I did pick it up, they knew what was happening. And I wasn't energetic. I didn't run up and down the sideline and so on, but I was pretty calm.
Right. A couple of things instilled in me was to be a family person. Always think about your family, and he brought Thibodeau High together as a family.
I never heard the man ever raise his voice to any of us, which is unheard of in the coaching profession, but he never yelled at us. He could be profane at times, but he never yelled at us. The other thing I learned from Pat Zush was, if you lose your cool, you lose. And that man never lost his cool.
I had classmates, friends. See, we still had a lot of racial tension. Coach Zush said, Briscoe, let me tell you something. There's no color in my field house. I need you and Foot to talk to your players. I said, okay. Me and Foot talk. Cornell Henderson right here. I said, Cornell, the roughest thing at West was Ronnie Estate. I said, send him to me. I control the east side, y'all boys at West couldn't handle him. Of course, I said, Briscoe, let me tell you, ain't no more east and west. Y'all typical Tigers now.
If it wasn't for football, I believe I'd have lost interest in school, but you had to keep your grades up in order to play. And Coach, you talked to us and we was there. We fought for you.
Laurie, Joe Farquet, Cam Morvan, I had wonderful coaches. Tex, Bollinger.
Everything that he's taught me about life, not just coaching, still holds in my principles today. He led me to the greatest profession in the world as a teacher-coach. And he always told me, he said, Laurie, remember, you're a teacher first and a coach. I never found a poor coach that wasn't a good teacher. That was a powerful statement.
Oh, I had every candlestick for only a year. He was tremendous.
Yeah.
I had Joe Farquet, played football, baseball, track, and Laurie Jupiter. Became an outstanding athlete and also a very, very excellent coach. Ronald Scott at Thibodeau High School. He played up at Southern, played a little football with Miami. Wayne Duncan, Ellery Scott, Lenny Kennedy. David O'Tan was a good athlete.
Oh, my wife, honey. Met her in high school. We went out. We dated a few times. And I graduated in 1949. And I got married. I got married when I was 19 and she was 17. She was still in school, a senior. And she was the first married to be in school to graduate. And then she became a wonderful wife, raised a good family, and a good worker, and a good cook. And when we went to school, we worked, and we shared for 68 and a half years. I don't believe we had an argument. We used to get in the car sometime after a football game, drive to the corner and say, where are we going? I don't know. We'd take off, put our suitcase and go to Mississippi, Alabama, we'd spend a weekend somewhere and had fun. So Bill was good athlete. And Jerry Lee, my daughter, she was a good teacher, a good student, and now she's living in Texas, has a good family. And Joe has a good family, good friends, and Joe, she both played in the band and so and so. And Jonna, oh, that was a little pit bull. But she was a good student, and she's a lovely wife now and has a good family. And Kenneth, the baby, he's a good boy too. So I had a good family. You learn by making mistakes. You learn not to do them again. And once you set your pattern, like you said, you could give it all you got, you know, a little bit. But you take care of yourself and you learn by other people's mistakes, by their attitude. You can learn a lot just by listening and reading. You don't have to talk, you just listen. And you could read people's minds and attitudes.
To present the award tonight to Pat Zush is Kevin Claymont, Mayor of Thibodaux. Coach Pat Zush.
Well, I tell you, this is a wonderful occasion with the family here, the friendship with Morton, all my friends and family. I was very successful, but I had good kids. I had good athletes. They were very smart. They could change their formations at halftime, defense. They did a great job, and I wound up, I had some of the best coaches in the United States. Laurie DuPont was one of them. I had Cam Movon, Carol Gula. You could name Fontenot, Henderson, Poindbuff. You can't do it by yourself. You have to work with people, and we had a great season. We had great friends. I had my lovely wife for 68 and a half years. She was my offensive and defensive coordinator. And we did a lot of traveling. We loved everybody, and I have a wonderful family, great grandkids. You can't beat it. And I want to thank the foundation and everybody that's here tonight. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I love you.
Several Hall of Fames now, several honors. They're just so well deserved. And how do you feel about tonight?
Actually, it's wonderful. I mean, I have wonderful family. I had wonderful football players, basketball, and I had wonderful coaches.
Yeah.
You can't do it by yourself.
Well, and you've always said that, but it seems like everybody who talks about Coach Pat Zush reveres you in the way you were able to reach out. You still had discipline, of course, you know.
Oh, yes, good discipline, good kids. I mean, they were respectable. Well, like I went to Thibodaux College with the Brothers of the Sacred Heart, the sisters of them. They were tough. My mother and father were very strict in times. So you learn. You make a mistake. You got home, you made a bigger mistake.
Yeah. Now, how does it feel to have Coach Laurie DuPont being inducted on the same night? That's special.
It's wonderful. I mean, Laurie was a very excellent football player. My quarterback won state championships, and he became a good coach. He became so good, I even hired him. And he was very good. Him and Joe Faki, Laurie DuPont, Cam Movon, they were great.
You know, see, a lot of your family are here today. Oh, they sure take care of you, don't they?
Yes. Oh, they take me. I don't spend too much time at the house. When I say, let's go here, we go. Get me out the house.
Yeah. So if you had to sort of give a little sentence to culminate what this honor means to you on a personal level, what would it mean?
Sure, it's hard to say. It's great. I mean, it's well planned and for the family, and it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring back a lot of great memories.
Yeah, well, you bring back a lot of memories for people because you set a winning tradition in motion. So at least you gave them something years later to look back on and say, we had pretty good teams.
Oh, yes. We had some good teams, good players, good administrators. It was,
yeah.
You can't do it by yourself. You need help. And then I had a wonderful wife at 68, and she was my offensive and defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Coach, congratulations. Well deserved, and enjoy your night.
Congratulations to all of the honorees tonight. We'll be back again the third Thursday of June next year with our next banquet. A couple of reminders. First of all, the videos of what you saw tonight will be available on YouTube. If Stan wakes up in the morning, they'll be on YouTube tomorrow morning. Also, thanks to Martin and HTV for filming all this, and it will be seen on HTV in the upcoming weeks, so be aware of that. Also, we do want to remind all of the inductees tonight to please gather, as soon as you get all your congratulations, gather in front of the Terrebonne General Health System banner over there for pictures. We want to get a picture of all the honorees here tonight. On behalf of everybody that was involved in this, the committee, the Team Terrebonne, Cypress Columns, and of course the great people at Terrebonne General Health System and Terrebonne General Community Sports Institute, we appreciate all of you being here. I know that all of the honorees here are very grateful for the support that people came out to give them tonight and to honor their accomplishments. So on behalf of everybody, we appreciate you being here. This is the 2023 Bayou Region Athletic Hall of Fame, brought to you by Gulf Coast Orthopedic. Everybody, please be safe going home, and God bless.
And there you have it. What a great night here at the Columns. Certainly a lot of well-deserving people inducted into the Bayou Region Hall of Fame. Some great friends, some great coaches, great athletes, and I had the privilege of playing with a lot of these athletes in high school, and they are certainly well-deserving of the honor for sure. So what we'll do, we'll take a break, a lot more programming here on HTV. Don't forget, all of our programming you can get on Facebook, on HTV Facebook, and YouTube. I'm Martin Falls. Thanks to the whole crew. Have a good night.